Hello, welcome to the Candy Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Evans Okinyuel. I'm joined by Professor here. And Professor, how are you?
Doing good.
How is it going?
Wonderful.
So far, so good?
So far, so good. Almost better.
You saw the MPs went on strike. I normally hear you use this word of shenanigans by the MPs or something of that
Yes.
kind. But then, our members of parliament were on the ground, and actually they decided not to attend a meeting that they were supposed to be attending, and they claimed that they should be actually given the CDF funds that have not been released by the national government or rather the treasury. Let me start from here. What's your take on the kind of stance of the members of parliament? In fact, all of them are united on this, both from the opposition and those in the government, and they want those funds released.
First of all, they are in contravention of Article 10 of the Constitution, which requires of public figures to behave in a manner that befits their office with decorum and dignity, and not bring ridicule to the office and an extension to the people of Kenya. When members of parliament behave like small boys, rioting over absence of chapati during our days at the university, students will riot because chapati is not there, dialogue, and, meatballs and such. You don't expect members of parliament to behave like that. These are leaders. So they are in contravention of Article 10 and Chapter 6. In terms of their stand, we all know CDF is unconstitutional. It has been declared so by none other than the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. And even before the Supreme Court, it is common sense. It's just outright common sense. It's common sense that MPs cannot join the executive in spending money. They are supposed to oversight the executive. It is as simple and as common sensical as that. It's not subject of debate. Even our courts, I don't understand our courts. Our courts can spend years upon years, month upon month, on something that is straightforward. The High Court should just have declared this within an hour. This is unconstitutional. You go to appeal court within a 30 minutes, that is unconstitutional. You go to the Supreme Court, 10 minutes, that is unconstitutional. Why do you want to waste time on things that cannot appear in any other court in the world? There are issues that people take for the determination of the American Supreme Court. Very serious issues, fundamental rights, things that have philosophical underpinnings, but not whether or not a man has a certificate or he doesn't have, which he has forged. Whether or not CDF is unconstitutional, these are simple, straightforward. So the CDF is unconstitutional.
No. My question is this: be as unconstitutional as it may be, as you're saying here, that as it may, Prof. We are here. The MPs are actually crying foul, saying very well that they have constituents who are actually waiting for them to deliver all the kind of projects that they that they promised require funding, and that is where CDF comes in. Another thing here, these MPs are saying they're supposed to be giving the pupils and perhaps the parents and everybody their bursaries. Those bursaries are needed, but now they cannot be offered because of those funds, the failure by the treasury to release those funds. And they're saying that parents are stranded. Those who depend on the bursaries for school purposes are also stranded. Don't you think it would be wise for the government just to decide, okay, well and good, now that it is here, why don't we just release this money? Or rather, wouldn't you perhaps try to champion for the release of those funds?
You have said two things they do. One is the projects. Development projects, according to our constitution, the structure of our constitution, you don't even need to be beyond class 4 to know things will either be done by the national government or by the county government. So all those development things MPs purport to be doing are to be done by the county government or the national government. So they have no role. If the closest we can get is to say, okay, since this is how Kenya seems to be working, let's put 40 billion or 50 billion, if we must, to be specific to constituencies. And now, if Vihiga has 5 constituencies and the total amount of money Vihiga constituency is supposed to get is 500 million, it goes to the county of Vihiga County. And then that is a special account within the county. The governor cannot use that money for any other thing other than the projects that will be identified by the people in those counties under the leadership of their MP. Once they have identified the projects that should be done in that financial year with 100 million per constituency, and the money is sufficient for that, then the county government or the national government, whichever is applicable, using experts in those ministries or those departments, move on the ground to implement those projects. Now, what's the work of the MP there? The work of the MP is to ensure that the governor is not shortchanging them. The work that's being done is not shoddy. People know that their road is supposed to be of maram, compressed maram. You can't come and do some grade and run away and go and claim. People say, no, this road is supposed to have, and the voice of the people is the MP. That makes sense. You talk about bursaries. First of all, we all know, because we live in this country, if there is anywhere where unfairness is witnessed in this country, in the village, is in the allocation of bursaries. It is so unfair, and the money is so little that even if, because an MP wants to appear as popular as possible. So, let's say you have 10 million for bursary in your constituency. Instead of looking for students who qualify to go to Mangu, Alliance, and these big schools from poor families and make sure they get that education, you want to give everybody. You want to give as many people as possible. There will still be many who will be left out in that unfair process. But what are you doing? You are spreading the 10 million too thin. So you are giving 1,500, 3,000, 4,000. Waste of money. But the more important thing, Evans, is the work of the MP is try to push for free education in the country. We as a people must move towards free education. That's the work of the MP. To ensure this country has free, quality education. But before we get there, I've said this repeatedly. If people must be given bursaries, let those bursaries be given by government, not by MPs. Bursaries were always there. They were given by county councils, by government, not MPs. MPs have serious interests. They are using this for campaign. So when they go to Mombasa and make a fools out of themselves, it's not because they want to help anyone. They want to help themselves. They must be told to shut up.
Now, come on, actually, Prof, this kind of approach from the members of parliament actually comes against the backdrop of a certain audit report that was done, and actually which showed that in the last financial year, almost 19 billion shillings was lost and cannot actually be traced. Of course, that is something that was this fund actually, it was meant for CDF, that is countrywide. If we look at the amount of money that was lost as a result of some of these things that you've called here unconstitutional, and which the MPs are now crying for. So I was wondering, surely, where is this kind of this kind of amount of money going to? And at the same place, these people are still demanding for more. And I was wondering, so how are we going to ensure that once that money has been given to them, then we minimize that kind of losses? Because 19 billion isn't a small amount of money.
That fund has been designed to be used by MPs to feel like big people, to campaign with. Because an MP moves around the constituency dishing checks. Anapatiwa mbuzi, kondoo, people clap for him. It's a very big thing, this distributing those checks. You get it? That ought not to be the case. That CDF will be misused. There is nothing you can do to it the way it is. It will be misused by MPs. Just follow the constitution, scrap it, because I tell Kenyans, and sometimes I appear rude, harsh. I tell Kenyans this, Evans. We can choose to be what we want to be. Okay? We can choose to remain a poor, dirty third world country, which I keep saying. We can choose to live in a country, and I've said this many times. Look at Nairobi, for example. Doesn't it touch MPs that over 80% of the people who live in Nairobi live in the so-called slums? These things are worse than slums, where our people live. Over 80% of the population. Those are not my figures. Over 80% of people in Nairobi have no access to piped water. Doesn't it touch these people? Don't they feel it? So to have a national assembly, the legislature of a country, pushing for that which is unconstitutional, declared by the Supreme Court of the country, that country cannot move forward. This will remain a poor country forever. And the MPs are not even ashamed of the suffering that Kenyans are going to bed hungry. Those are not my figures. World Bank figures and government figures. Millions of Kenyans cannot afford a meal. Kenyans are dying like rats from preventable diseases. Cancer is ravaging people. People have sold homes. People have sold houses. People have sold the little land they have. When cancer strikes, and now cancer is almost in every, you count one home, the third home, there's a cancer patient. Not my figures. These are not my statistics. In a country like this, MPs want to be given money to go and use with girlfriends and boyfriends. Honestly, this country is like it's cursed. No, these MPs must be told. First of all, we need to make parliament a place where people go because they have something to offer to the country. Not because they are going for money. We must remove money from parliament. In terms of CDF, in terms of allowances, in terms of the Parliamentary Service Commission, it must be abolished. In terms of the huge salaries. Once you remove the huge salaries, let's say pay an MP 150, 200,000, and that's all. Nothing else. No CDF, nothing. No Parliamentary Service Commission. 150, 200,000. And you'll see the caliber of MPs we shall get. It will be people who will go there not because they want money, because they have a contribution to make to the country. But so long as we splash money, you will continue having the idiots you are seeing. Yeah.
No, in the same manner that you're talking here, yes. The MPs are also saying how people are suffering,
Which
how people need money, how people need to go to school.
It's a lie. If it is true, people are suffering. Let's work out a system. This constitution has provided for education boards, county education boards. Let's work through the county education boards and find out which ways can we use to help the less fortunate students. I've given an example of schools like Lenana. Lenana is sitting, when I was there as a parent, it was sitting on over 200 acres of land. About 240 acres of land, if I remember. It's many years ago, I've forgotten. There are schools with facilities. A school like Lenana should be able to cater for students who can't afford fees. Because that land can be put to use. This country has people who are willing to adopt other children. We don't want to think. We want to be cheap, simple and stupid. Amzungu gave us starehe. We have never come up with another starehe after Griffin's left. What was the model? The model was this. You give rich parents a chance in starehe. And the fees one parent pays, Evans, can cater for 10 poor children to learn free. Amzungu, Griffins, starehe. Is it not a shame that this many years after that, we don't have 10, 20 starehes? These big schools like Lenana, there will be parents there who will be willing to sponsor 5, 10 students every week from their pockets. I mean, why can't we think? Instead, we want to be given money to eat.
So,
hao MPs hawa kama inchi iko na hao ndio wanaita viongozi. If these MPs I'm seeing in Mombasa are the people in whose future this country is entrusting. In whose hands we are entrusting the future of our children. We are doomed as a country. These are not leaders. This is an embarrassment. I look at it, some MPs I respect a bit. I see them talking about CDF. We cannot go back to this meeting. I'm expecting some semi-literate village MP. I see somebody going to school. I say, kumbe pesa ni kitu mbaya. But finally, if what I see in Mombasa is what is the leadership of this country, only one thing will save this, only two things will save this country. And one has been saving us, God. But like I've said, God can get tired of stupid people, the way Museveni said. The next thing that will save this country, I don't know whether it is saving, but let me just say the inevitable is a revolution. If what you see in Mombasa is the leadership of this country, tell me how you'll stop a revolution from happening. A revolution will happen. Because I tell MPs, do they know, when you are a member of parliament, do you know two things? Number one, when we count 1,000 people who are important in terms of leadership, you are among the 1,000. From a population of 50 million, you belong to top 1,000. That's an honor. The country has given you such a serious honor that you are among the top 1,000 people in the country in leadership. That is something you should be proud of and thank God. How can a country of 50 million people put me in a bracket of 1,000 top people? That is a great honor.
So you think they don't understand that?
They don't. They're fools. These are idiots. They don't know. The second thing they don't know, when you are an MP, your actions today will affect this country 200 years to come, 100 years to come. The future of your grandchildren are being affected by the shenanigans you are showing in Mombasa. So this, when I call them fools, some of them are my friends, but they are fools. Because as an MP, you belong to the cream of the society, top leadership. 1,000 you are there when they count. In fact, 1,000 have gone so far. It should be like 500, but let's be generous. You belong to 1,000. Kwa watu 1,000 muhimu Kenya hii ambao wanashughulikia maslahi ya nchi uko ndani kwa nchi ya watu milioni 50. And you can't know what that means. You can't know that the decisions you make, the stupid things you do today will affect 3, 4, 5 generations tomorrow. How stupid can one be, honestly? How stupid can one be not to know that as an MP, the decisions you make today, the stupid things you do today will affect this country generations to come. And that's why we must do something drastic before the revolution.
Well, I hope they're listening, Prof. But as we conclude this conversation,
and they will hate me a bit.
As we conclude this conversation,
yes.
A friend of mine asked me, an MP uses almost over 40 million during the campaign.
Yes.
He has 4 years to recover this money.
Yes.
How do you expect him to get his money?
I liked it when they were trying to come up with a spending bill. You know, you saw it, eh?
Yes,
and they were going by areas. There were some areas was 20 million, another place was 30 million, which they would be allowed. Meaning what they are not allowed could be 3 times more than that. And I say, God, look, that's where we are. And let me tell you this, as we finish this thing. And I want to repeat this thing until it reaches leaders in this country, rich people in this country. If you love yourself, if you love the life you live in Lavington, and you want your son to live the same life and your granddaughter, stop doing these stupid things you are doing. Stop. Because if you don't stop these stupid things you are doing, then you have no love for your children and your grandchildren. Because ultimately, the country will collapse. And when things go south, you will not stay in current. I think Kenyans are so daft. They don't know what's going on around the world. When these things happen, you will not stay in Lavington. No, you will not stay in Karen. I don't know why they don't see these things. When When that thing they say hits the pan, my friend, you know that thing, eh? Kwisha, imeisha. You know, let me tell you, please, I know there's no time, let me tell you this. We are so used to order and things working, waking up and putting on your tie and going to town and driving your children to school and coming back and the watchman opening your gate. We don't know it can just take a few hours for all that to end. All of it. Kwisha, it's not there. It's not there. I want the middle class and the rich people in this country to know. Napoleon said, from one to the other, oh my friend, there's a very thin line. From your world can just change one day. The things you've been taking for granted, the place you sleep, the club you go to, the schools your children go to, all that can collapse one day. One day. And it's not there. There's no difference between you and a man in Kibra. I hope these guys in Mombasa, as they engage in the shenanigans they're engaging in, they should know that. And hata wewe utakuwa mheshimiwa. Mheshimiwa wapi? And the country has collapsed. Order is, these things you enjoy because of some order. And the order is maintained when there is sanity. And sanity is there because people can see things working. And some hope that there is tomorrow. Our MPs are destroying that hope. And Kenyans are getting to a point they are seeing there is no tomorrow. It will snap. Nakatanuka.
It will slap Nakatanuka, of course. That is a very good point to end this conversation here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope our MPs are listening. And of course, Prof has just told them to stop this kind of shenanigans. Of course, he believes that each and everything that our country and our citizens need in terms of development and everything can be actually achieved without having to go through the process of CDF, and he maintains that it is unconstitutional as the courts declared so. Till we have this conversation again, have yourself a very lovely day. My name is Evans Okinyi.